Good evening, America, and this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live daily gay evening news show. And it's 7 p.m. Monday, February 17th, 2020, President's Day. Q News Tonight is live and unscripted, so anything can happen and already has this evening. Tonight, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and these are my co-anchors, Aaron Darr and Napoleon Plays. Let's cue up the news. We begin first with breaking Q News. Aaron, tell us what's breaking in America.
So, super duper breaking news. Pop star Cher endorses Joe Biden, stating, "I've got you, babe." So,
are LGBT voices important to you? Can the news of the world have a gay community perspective? If you, like us, think the answer is a resounding yes, then like and subscribe to Q News Tonight on YouTube and Facebook. Do our gay cultural stories impact you, your friends, and family? Start a watch party. Get your circle involved in our conversation as it supports the gay community.
And Napoleon, can you help us with a watch party tonight on Facebook? Walk us through how we do that.
All right, so all that you want to do is go to Facebook and click in the bottom right corner where it says then start a watch party. Once we've started, it's really, really simple. Anyone, even you, can figure it out.
All right, great. All right, let's jump right into the news tonight. We begin by queuing up Vote 2020. Rival campaigns privately concede tonight that Bernie Sanders is the front runner in Nevada. Before Aaron tells us about this, we have prepared this. Let's watch.
Caucuses. Early voting in the state is now underway with Bernie Sanders as the front runner. Almost every presidential candidate was spotted there over the weekend. One person we didn't see was billionaire Michael Bloomberg. The former New York City mayor isn't even competing in Nevada and did not on the ballot.
I didn't see Mike in Iowa where we were holding town meetings with folks there. Didn't see him in New Hampshire. Hey, you know what? I didn't see him here in Nevada.
the rival campaigns are privately conceding that Bernie Sanders is now the front runner in the Nevada caucus. The carousel of rising and falling centrists is pushing Bernie Sanders ahead. Each of his competitors is now scrambling to emerge as the one credible alternative to him, and to do so convincingly before the important Super Tuesday and before Mike Bloomberg enters the race. Just an important poll that's come out recently, the Las Vegas Journal and AARP Nevada have Bernie Sanders in first at 25%, Joe Biden at second at 18%, Elizabeth Warren in third at 13%, fourth is Tom Steyer, and tied at fifth place are Pete and Amy at 10% with 13% of voters still undecided.
Aaron, I'm really curious, what do you think Nevada is reflecting Mayor Pete's low numbers in the polling?
Well, personally, I mean, it's part of its name idea and recognition. Bernie Sanders obviously spent a lot of money there. He actually outspent Hillary Clinton in 2016 in the caucus in that state, and he did well in Nevada. But I think a lot of it has to do with the reality that his campaign is going to have a hard time reaching people that are not white, so people of color, a lot of Latinos, a lot of African Americans that are there, a lot of young people that particularly seem to go for Senator Sanders. So it's building that coalition that one needs to win big.
We continue in queuing up Vote 2020 to talk about the president, and I don't mean Trump. What Obama is discussing behind closed doors about the Democratic primary. Aaron, tell us about all of the gossip that's going on about President Obama.
Ooh, girl, there's lots of gossip for you tonight.
Right.
So a lot of people are really wondering why Barack Obama has not gotten involved in this Democratic primary. And that's not unlike a sitting president.
You're not going to tell me he's supporting Donald Trump, are you?
No, well, obviously he's not supporting Donald Trump. But just for our viewers, just to mention, Barack Obama didn't get involved in the Democratic primary between Senator Sanders and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2016. Don't see him doing anytime soon. However, there was a Fox News reporter that allegedly overheard Barack Obama stating his disgust, if you will, for the way in which the Democratic Party is going right now in terms of it looking like it could perhaps be a Bernie Sanders nomination. And one of the things that is most concerning to him, allegedly, is that this could be a contested convention where none of the candidates, including Senator Sanders, has the 1,990 delegates needed to secure the Democratic nomination. And if that happens, then whoever has the most amount of delegates, then let's say it's Bernie Sanders. So let's say Bernie Sanders in the article that we're referencing has 35 to 40% of pledged delegates. By plurality, he would become the nominee. But according to Democratic Bylaws and Rules Committee, it's actually much more complex
Aaron,
than that.
I'm curious. You, I think, used the word allegedly to this entire story on President Obama 3 times in this minute 40 seconds of reporting. Is there any story here with President Obama at all?
No,
we're following up Fox's promotion.
Yeah, and I think that this is fake news. This is actual fake news, and I think that what this is part of that vast far right-wing conspiracy that's doing nothing more than dividing the Democratic Party further.
All right, we continuing queuing up the world, and we talk about climate change. And this amazing video we're getting ready to show you of a pilot landing a 394-ton A380 sideways over the weekend as a hurricane hits the United Kingdom's called Dennis as it was raging. This is amazing. Watch this.
So as our viewers just saw in that video, an Airbus A380, the world's largest passenger plane, was forced to make a spectacular crab landing amid fiercely strong winds at London's Heathrow Airport. The name crab is derived from the manner in which a crab moves sideways across a beach for it to be able to land. This was interesting because for it to be able to do this, it was 68 to 75 mile hour per winds, and the plane itself is 394 tons. So bravo to the pilot and the crew.
Amazing experience in watching this plane land, but it brings us to the big question about what's going on in climate. For a hurricane to hit the United Kingdom, we're watching some video as we speak. So many scientists are talking about this as anecdotal proof of climate change. Hurricanes don't hit the UK in the winter, especially. What are your thoughts in terms of?
Well, this isn't even the first that has hit of that nature. And we're finding out about it, at least in terms of the spread of news, at a relatively late hour, considering how large of a scale this actually was. And this isn't anecdotal. This is, sure, technically one example that is technically anecdotal, but this is just one of dozens of examples that science backs up. I mean, climate change is real. We're experiencing it on a regular basis in the middle of February, in this case, in the UK.
Yeah, we all live here in Fort Lauderdale. We're used to a hurricane. This hurricane, I was hearing in looking at your story that the winds were about 87 miles an hour there at Heathrow. We're used to that in Fort Lauderdale in August and September. This is February in the United Kingdom in the Northern Atlantic. Scary. It is scary. We continue to queue up the USA as today over 1,000 former Department of Justice employees are calling on Attorney General Barr to resign after his involvement in the Roger Stone case. Before Napoleon tells us about this, we've prepared a video. Watch this.
So now these 1,100 names signed this letter, including the former Deputy Attorney General under President George Bush, about 50 former U.S. attorneys. They're now calling on Justice Department employees to report abuses of political interference and to resign if they see them. Take a look at what they said. They say, quote, "It is unheard of for the department's top leaders to overrule line prosecutors who are following established policies in order to give preferential treatment to a close associate of the president. Such behavior," they say, "is a grave threat to the fair administration of justice."
Over 1,000 former employees are speaking for the Department of Justice to call on Barr to resign. This is in addition to the 4 actual current or formerly current representatives that did resign in this case. Roger Stone was expected to be given a lengthy sentence, and then in response, including to surprise of President Trump, was given a reprieve by Barr, stating that he will have a significantly lesser statement, which caused all of these shenanigans. And there's a lot of reports that are going on that this is a sign of the crippling of our entire system, that governments that are used to enforce the enormous power of law and enforce the punishment of their enemies reward support their allies are not constitutional republics, they're autocracies, is one statement that was made. We are all watching in a really rapid and terrifying way the undermining of the department and the diminishment of the rule of law. This is a statement that is pushing for what is going on behind the scenes in the government, and it is showing what's happening in a very real way.
I constantly provide the frame of LGBT to stories like this. Obviously, Barr's involvement with Roger Stone is not directly an LGBT story. Do you have any impression that the LGBT community is caring about the Attorney General at all?
I think everybody in our community, not just the LGBT, wants to see somebody treated with justice and with respect, especially in our community, because we have felt so slighted in different parts of our past. And so to see somebody just get away with something because they're buddy-buddy with the president doesn't rub most people the right way. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people to say that we're feeling like this is more about who you know than what your actual actions are and how safe you are in our country.
Well, we continue in queuing up the USA and talk about the coronavirus and our concerns that we have been reporting now for about 6 weeks about corona. You have heard likely about the Princess cruise ship in Japan, in Yokohama, outside of Tokyo, the cruise ship effect being quarantined now for 10 days, and 380 some American passengers taken off the ship for a long flight back to safety in the United States. Before Napoleon tells us about that, we've prepared this video. Watch this.
Yeah, Sabrina, so the government says they believe the risk of exposure to getting the coronavirus, at least for the rest of the public, is low, but you know more of the steps they're taking to make sure people are going to be safe in this.
Yes, Dina, I mean, you can imagine people are really afraid that this virus is going to spread here. So the State Department is ensuring them that they are safe. But we are learning that those 14 passengers who tested positive with the coronavirus will be housed here at the Travis Air Force Base for a 14-day quarantine.
The specific story here is that 328 Americans got on a plane thinking that they were safe and that nobody else on the plane had the virus. They were being held specifically in the country and held back from returning to the U.S. so that they would not be infected. And it turns out that a number of people on the plane ended up not only being contagious and having the virus, but were actually there unbeknownst to them until they were in the air of the flight. And this is just one scenario where this is the case. On the cruise ship that you were discussing before, what we're finding is that quarantine is almost impossible, that the case numbers are rising and the people that are taking care of those that are infected are starting to become infected themselves. And that's where this is becoming scary. We don't know how to deal with this. We don't know how to quarantine the disease, and we don't know how to accurately assess where we're at in the process. Maybe there's a vaccine that's coming and maybe we can contain it, but we don't know what to do in the process along the way. And as we're seeing here in this story, people are starting to get separated from their families, are starting to get scared in the process of what's going on and not knowing where they stand. And we're getting into the emotional fallout.
We reported at Q News Tonight last week the footage of a billionaire, Chinese billionaire, that was on a news program in Finland last week reporting that the Chinese government is hiding the statistics of what's going on with corona, that as many as 1.5 million people are infected in China and 50,000 people have already died in China. So we continue to watch coronavirus stories, and another one in terms of coming to the United States. Aaron, tell us about what we are doing here tonight.
Yes, so as this story continues to develop, Q News Tonight is going to be there every step of the way, because Q News Tonight is part of the Happening Out television network. We are the daily news, but you can also watch the best of entertainment live every Monday night, tonight at 8 p.m. on happening.fun. We are also part of the most popular live gay TV show in the world, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on It's Happening Out. It's a talk show like television's The View, with a whole lot of gay people.
Speaking of gay people and entertainment, we queue up entertainment at Q News Tonight and report as we go to Auckland, New Zealand. Elton John over the weekend cut a concert short in tears with an announcement about his health, and it was captured live. Watch this.
I'm so sorry.
So as our viewers just saw, Sir Elton John has broken down in tears and cut short a New Zealand gig to be escorted off stage by medics. The singer, who's 72 years of age, revealed recently that he was diagnosed the same day with walking pneumonia. So we at Q News Tonight send our best onto our brother.
We continue to queue up entertainment to talk about Imagine Dragons frontman Dan Reynolds. He is taking on activism for the LGBTQ plus community and rights all the way to Washington. Before Napoleon tells us about that, we've prepared this video for you. Watch this.
We want it to be a safe space for everybody to feel the love and acceptance together for our LGBTQ. And we want them to hear it with resounding cries from all across Utah.
For some Mormons, this will be the first time they'll listen to someone who is LGBTQ talk for more than like 5 minutes.
I want to love myself and not feel shame.
Being an openly gay man performing with my band up here should speak volumes. I am happy, I'm proud.
I'm not gonna just walk away and let the house on fire burn. I'd rather do all that I can with this lucky spot that I've been put in to hopefully put out a fire.
So that is Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons, known for their hit song Believer. Of course, it was on, I think, every commercial about 2 years ago, from cars to gaming to everything else. Dan Reynolds, the lead singer, has gone recently to Washington with Neon Trees' Tyler Glenn, as well as RuPaul's Drag Race's Carmen Carrera. They, along with the Love Loud Festival, have been voicing concerns for the LGBT community. Dan Reynolds is, of course, himself straight and has voiced that it is crazy that a straight man has to go to Washington for the protest against conversion therapy, which is legal in a significant number of states. It's only banned in 34 states. He's gone on record last year in the Billboard Awards in 2019 to say that 58% of the gay population is in 34 of the states, and that they have no conversion therapy ban, which is ridiculous from his point of view. He, of course, had a documentary, which we saw just a moment ago, Believer, where he was pushing the Mormon Church to end their discrimination policy against the LGBT community.
I understand that the documentary had quite an effect. The Mormon Church's public position now is they do not support conversion therapy. There's some counter argument discussion about it, but their public opinion announcement is they are against conversion. We continuing queuing up gay culture now as we report on Lil Nas X. An interesting story as he is told, quote unquote, stop being horny on Maine after encouraging fans to hit him up in his DMs. Napoleon, please tell me what's going on here with Lil Nas X.
Anything that will get you to stop saying horny, I will happily take over for. So Lil Nas X has 4 million followers on Twitter. And one of the things that happened in the past few days was that he posted a picture of two couples and stated that he wants what they have. And then he followed that up with, who wants me? Of course, recently at the Grammys, he appeared in a dominatrix pink cowboy outfit. And also in this series of tweets, he was stating that he has a Lightning McQueen bed from the Pixar movie Cars. Others followed up by saying that he needs to stop being horny in his main account, and then others asking even still how big, to which he said, DM me.
Wait, how big what?
How big's your dick?
Oh.
How big's your dick is exactly what he was asked. Right. And you have to ask yourself how much of this comes about because he is a gay artist. You wouldn't see somebody saying this to a straight rapper or a straight artist of any nature. Oh, okay, so that you said you want a relationship and therefore you're being horny on your main account. No, you're just being a human that's expressing their needs. This has nothing to do with the fact that he's LGBT. He's not a fuckboy, which is what others are calling him just because he's interested in experiencing who he is. He's just coming to terms with his own identity and experiencing it. I think it's crazy what's going on with him here.
Interesting observation, because it's totally a double standard because he is LGBT. You could say the same thing with women. If a man was to do this, people would call him a rock star. Yeah. If a woman was to do this, they call her a whore.
The Super Bowl 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very funny to me. Napoleon and I were talking about this story. If it was a situation where Eminem or Snoop Dogg did this, nobody would even lift an eyebrow.
Kid Rock, any of them, yeah.
And because he does it, and because it's LGBT, and he's talking about showing his dick or how big it is or whatever he's doing in his public social media. I also think it's interesting here in the story about public social media for a performer, an entertainer, somebody in public eye, versus private. What's the difference? Who cares that Lil Nas X is in public.
Well, I mean, you don't really get a private public persona. You get what fake accounts you create, and then you get your actual blue check mark real account, and that's the one where you have to be professional on. Everything else is just developments, hearsay, and nothing else really matters. But your actual account, you need to represent who you are.
Interesting. And when somebody asked him about how big his dick is, and he said, his reply. Do you think that affects him in any way in terms of his public persona?
I think Aaron's interested now, right?
No, it's not even that. No, I think he's young. I mean, he's very young. He's living his life. He's newly out. Let him do and say what he wants to do. Live and let live.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because it is a control issue and an LGBT control issue. Tonight, we are broadcasting from our new set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center here in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We always joke in our shows that we're broadcasting from the gayest place on planet Earth. And the gentlemen that join me every night at Q News Tonight prove that. We also thank our set designers, Concepto Modern Living, located here in Fort Lauderdale for the new set, so we thank you. Next, we have The Big Finish here at Q News Tonight. There are many stories going on today that we only want to mention, so we're trying to do it in a little more entertaining way. Let's see if Aaron and Napoleon and I can entertain each other as we have a lightning round on the LGBT news of the day and the news with an LGBT perspective. If they talk too much or are not entertaining, I'm going to ring the bell for The Big Finish. Gentlemen, do you understand our rules here?
Yes, ma'am.
I see I can move the bell today, so I'm in a good space.
I'm moving the bell over a little. Q News Tonight, The Big Finish. Here we go. The Big Finish story number 1. It was announced Friday that gay bathhouses could return to San Francisco. Of course, I'm going to go to Aaron first.
Well, I think the most important aspect of this conversation is why they were not allowed in San Francisco for the period of time that they were not. And that is the HIV/AIDS epidemic of the 1980s and the early 90s. Obviously, now we know that HIV/AIDS is no longer a death sentence in countries that have developed medicine. So I'm happy to see this personally. People can do whatever they're going to do in private, but the larger part of the conversation needs to be that people still need to continue to protect themselves in any and all ways possible against STIs and HIV/AIDS.
That's very important information, and I am here to share with all of you that Q News Tonight is here looking for a sponsor in San Francisco. We have found that it is the perfect time for us to be there. So if you are interested, please send an email to Napoleon at happeningout.com, and we will make sure that we're there for this breaking story.
Shameless. The Big Finish story number 2. AOC is going to be a judge on RuPaul and gets some backlash and tells the drag haters on Twitter, quote unquote, they can go back to Party City. Well, if we're going to talk about Party City, of course we're going to turn to Napoleon.
I actually go to Party City like 3 times a week. It's right next to my gym, and I have a very fun time just going and seeing colorful things where you can like blow into it and it makes noise. And now I'm realizing my audience. And also just, have fun with the shiny things for just a moment. Obviously, this is a reference to the famed season with Fifi and Sharon Needles. Come on, this is all about it for AOC. She wants to win that Gen Z appeal.
Yeah.
This is a coincidentally, Party City is where Napoleon found his last boyfriend.
Coincidentally.
So where we broke up, it was the whole series right there.
The Big Finish story number 3. A conservative minister says being trans is a Jewish plot to have humanity be androgynous. Napoleon, are you behind this Jewish plot?
I have been plotting this for years. That's my entire...
You're Jewish, right?
I'm a Jew. I am a Jew that's been here in South Florida for 5 years, and this is the entire reason that I went to get on board.
A Jew in South Florida?
It's an odd thing. I don't even understand this story. I reread it like 17 times trying to get a grip on this. What does this even mean? Apparently, Jews want Adam and Eve to be the same person, and therefore this is a return to normalcy for all of us. And by the way, at my Jew conventions that I go to every Friday, this is exactly a part of it. It's how
the story here is it's another stupid conservative minister. The Big Finish story number 4. John Oliver calls Pete's healthcare plan a shit sandwich. I love Last Week Tonight. Who's up? Who wants to start?
Well, I find this very concerning because whether or not you support Mayor Pete, he has a much more pragmatic approach to health care in terms of a public option in the United States rather than Medicare for all, which even AOC, a very staunch surrogate and advocate of Bernie Sanders, has come out this week and said that Medicare for all, which is a proposal by Senator Sanders, would be very hard to implement because she doesn't know how we would actually pay for it.
I love that sense of policy. I was just going back to the actual John Oliver experience, which is where he was talking about this. And he suggests that you could have a shit sandwich or a slightly smaller shit sandwich with avocado and guacamole on it. And I've got to say, you know, I feel like the whole point of that is that you're paying extra for the avocado. And I know I'm missing the point entirely, but if you're going to get it with the extra shit on it, you're probably getting it even worse off. And I can't help but think that this is going to be a recurring joke in it. So I can't wait to see more from John Oliver.
The recurring joke begins right now because I think your comments here from John Oliver just set up a shit sandwich. We move on to the big finish, story number 5. Nancy Pelosi is saying Donald Trump was not acquitted. Whose dick is bigger, the Donald or the Nancy's?
Donald Trump was not acquitted. You have to have an impartial trial, an impartial jury, one that's not biased to be acquitted. And that didn't occur.
So your answer was Nancy's?
Absolutely, Nancy. He's not acquitted, but he is forever impeached.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that he could be impeached twice. I heard somebody say he was impeached twice in his presidency, and that just stuck with me. So let's get that ball rolling and see how we can make that happen for the second time.
I don't even hear anything either one of you said because I'm thinking about Nancy's big dick. The big finish, story number 6. In Walking Dead news, left-wing protesters brought a coffin to declare Biden's campaign as dead. We have a slide showing you that picture. Guys, what do y'all think about this?
This is why Donald Trump's going to get reelected. This was not the first time that this has happened just this campaign season. This also was done to Senator Elizabeth Warren and to Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Now it's being done to Vice President Biden, and it's from the same coalition. It's the very far left-wing party, part of the Democratic Party, and they're all Bernie Sanders supporters, and they're open about the fact that they're Bernie Sanders supporters. This is not a way to unify at all, and if this is the manner in which they're going to continue to behave, they're going to have a hard time building a coalition of moderate and centrist Democrats to win in November.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders supporters remind me of the idea that you can't actually have opposites. Love and hate are the same thing. They're just right next to each other. That's sort of how it feels with Bernie and with Donald. Everything is the same thing. It's just you're one step removed no matter who you're voting for or not.
The big finish, story 7. From the fake news file. A Trump campaign manager deletes dramatic Air Force One photos over the weekend after people point out that Air Force One's visit to the Daytona Speedway was Bush's in 2004. This picture we're showing you here. Guys, what do you think? Fake news here. Fake news.
You know, honestly, given the Trump administration, I was looking for like the random cat in the corner or some other clearly photoshopped in thing that just made it clear that this wasn't real. I almost feel like the plane itself is just there being an added addition because I don't trust anything that they put out as media.
I'm shocked that the president didn't say, my crowds were the hugest in history.
I love it. Make him a Dr. Seuss character too.
The big finish, story number 8. Happy 57th birthday to Michael Jordan and happy 29th birthday to Ed Sheeran. Aaron, do you even know who Air Jordan is?
I do know who Michael Jordan is. He's a basketball player.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We talked about this right before the show.
Yeah, and he also did some movie in the 90s that when I was...
They're making a sequel to it! Come on, we talked about this. We coached you through this.
Whoa, she is excited, girls. Calm her down.
Looney Tunes meets sports. How else could you ever want to be a heterosexual young kid?
Yes,
Ask
exactly.
Carol Channing and she'll tell you.
Yeah. Carol Channing's dead.
I know.
She's dead.
R.I.P.
Call the phone.
The big finish, story number 9. From the non-existent, quote-unquote, a woman for president file, it's Dusty. 6 years ago, Saudi Arabia hired the first woman newspaper editor-in-chief. Today is the 6-year anniversary. What do we think about the dramatic women's rights that are going on in Saudi Arabia?
Well, progress is slow. Anything worth fighting for, change worth fighting for is slow, but it's much so needed because in the end, the result it's clear, and it's what you want to achieve, and it's equality for all the sexes.
All right, and we do. We want that.
You know, when I first read this story, I thought, wow, this is incredible that 6 years ago this happened, and I didn't even know about it. And then as we're discussing this right now, I'm thinking, wow, this is such a small step considering how much has to happen just for equality in Saudi Arabia. And now I'm feeling very pessimistic about this story.
It's disappointing, Saudi Arabia and their women's rights. We come out of the Big Finish and talk about queuing up commentary. And we have a second commentary here at Q News Tonight. And it's because it's President's Day. Obviously, it got us to ask some questions in our commentary. And our commentary tonight at Q News Tonight is, will America celebrate Donald Trump on President's Day in the future? President's Day falls on the third Monday in February in the United States. The day is meant to celebrate George Washington and all of the presidents of the United States. It began as a federal holiday in 1879. This year, however, is different. It's historic. We have faced presidential impeachment and a polarized nation. The election of our lifetime will take place before the next President's Day 2021. So it gets me thinking, will America celebrate Donald Trump on President's Day in the future? To answer this question, I can't help but think of President Ronald Reagan when he said on trying times, like today, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream." Wow, just wow. It's a call to arms for America. We are always so close to losing everything as it relates to our democracy. So today, let's think about Trump on President's Day. First, even the U.S. government may be saying no to Trump on President's Day. Just this morning, the EPA, for example, tweeted out, I quote, "EPA joins the nation this President's Day in celebrating all of our presidents, past and future." I guess the EPA didn't get the memo that we have a current president. It's a funny but honest mistake. However, it actually may not be so funny. After all, we have a president of the United States that 55% of Americans identify in the quote-unquote "I hate him" column. Great economy, master of doublespeak, wears you out, isolates us in the world, convinces blacks, women, Hispanics, and gay people that they are better off with him than without him. So you can't argue with success, even when 55% of us say we hate him. So I suspect that the answer to the question of President's Day and Trump in the future will be based solely on the upcoming election. If he is reelected, he moves into the same category as Obama, Clinton, Bush, and others. So yeah, Trump on President's Day. However, his defeat will likely codify him as one of the most unpopular presidents of the generation that Reagan speaks of. So the answer to our question is, we don't know. We're waiting for the voting day on November 3rd, 2020 to decide if we have a President's Day in 2021. But here's a thought. Likely today is the last President's Day we're ever going to celebrate in America. With his win, we will celebrate starting next year like the nation we had a revolution with, the British, in 1776. In 2021, we may begin, let's celebrate the American monarch and king holiday, because the celebration of the American presidency representing to the entire world may prove that what is coming is the end of the American presidency. This is Q News Tonight commentary. We finish our show tonight with queuing up good news. And a really interesting thing happened over the weekend. A dog could not be more excited about an astronaut's return after a full year in space. we queue up at It's Happening Out, good news. Watch this.